A millionaire who had forgotten how to love finds a barefoot boy shaking in the rain at the door of his hospital. The boy holds a wet photograph against his chest. His lips are blue, his eyes full of a silence that screams, and in that instant, something dead inside the man starts to beat again. Because sometimes life gives you back what you lost in the most unexpected way. Like this, if it touched your soul. It is more than a click. It is a silent hug between those who know what it is to lose and find again. Comment how you think this story will end. And if you have not subscribed yet, it costs you nothing, but for us it means the whole world. Thank you for being here. The March rain punished New York with a violence that felt personal. The drops hit the road like small, angry fists, creating a low fog that wrapped the streets in a grey and wet hug. Doctor Arthur Sterling stopped his black Mercedes in front of the emergency entrance of St. Jude Hospital with the precision of someone used to everyone moving out of his way. At 52, Arthur had turned medicine into an empire. 5 hospitals, 3 special clinics, investments that reached numbers most people could not even say. His face, strong jaw, calculating look, grey hair perfectly combed back, appeared in business magazines with titles like The Midas King of Private Health. For him, patients were numbers on balance sheets. Lives were success statistics. That night he had only one mission: to inspect personally the new cardiology wing that would open in 4 days, an investment of $8 million that would put St. Jude at the top of heart medicine in the United States. He got out of the car with his Italian coat, avoiding puddles with the automatic care of someone wearing $1,000 shoes. Ambulance sirens cut through the night. The lights of the cars reflected on the wet ground like melted neon. Then he saw him. A boy, he could not be more than 7 years old, walked shaky and barefoot between the parked cars. His clothes, soaked to the bone, stuck to a body so thin it seemed made only of hunger and cold. He had dark hair stuck to his forehead and hands holding something against his chest, a wrinkled photograph he protected like a holy object. Arthur did not even slow down. For him, that boy was part of the city view he had learned not to see. New York was full of invisible people, beggars, homeless, lost children. It was not his problem. He had a wing to inspect. The boy took 2 more steps toward the hospital entrance, and he collapsed. He fell on his knees first, as if the weight of the rain had knocked him down, then forward, with hands still protecting the photo. His head hit the ground with a dull sound that was lost in the noise of traffic and the drum of the storm. Arthur stopped, not for pity, not yet, but for something more simple: clinical curiosity. The security guard was already running toward the fallen body. "Move him away from the entrance," Arthur ordered coldly. "Real patients cannot get through." But something made him doubt. Maybe it was the extreme paleness of the boy's face, visible even under the orange streetlights, or the blue lips, a clear sign of cold, or the violent shaking of that tiny body even while unconscious. Arthur raised a hand. "Wait, take him to triage." The guard looked surprised but obeyed. He picked up the boy carefully. He weighed less than a suitcase and took him inside. Arthur followed them, more for a distant medical interest than for real worry. The emergency area smelled like strong soap mixed with sweat, fear, and hurry. Fluorescent lights buzzed over tired heads. A dozen people waited on green plastic chairs. The digital sign flashed, "Wait time 3 hours." 2 workers pushed a bed toward surgery, while a nurse shouted orders down the hall. In the triage room, Dr. Sarah Miller, 32 years old, a young doctor with deep circles under her eyes, and the face of someone who had seen too much pain, examined the boy with the cold efficiency of a machine: severe hunger, moderate thirst, fever of 102 degrees, early cold shock. Nothing special, nothing urgent. "It is a social case," Sarah whispered without looking up from the tool. "Fluid medicine. Leave him in the hall until a bed is free. Tomorrow the social worker will take care of it." Arthur watched from the door with his arms crossed. Something in the scene felt strange to him, though he did not know exactly what. The boy opened his eyes suddenly. It was like an inner spring had shot him back to being awake. His eyes, big, dark, bright with fever but strangely focused, looked around the room with a power that did not belong to a boy about to die. He saw Sarah. He saw the nurse. He saw Arthur. And he sat up with a strength that seemed impossible, grabbing the doctor's arm. "Sir," his voice was rough, broken. I need to talk to the man in the suit. Urgent." Sarah tried to let go gently. "Quiet, little one. You are safe." But the boy did not let go. His eyes were fixed on Arthur with fierce intent. "Sir, the photo, she needs, please." He held out the wrinkled photo with shaking hands. Arthur took it with no patience, expecting to find some child nonsense. It was the picture of a young woman, maybe 40 years old, smiling at the camera with that mix of hope and tired eyes of those who have fought too long. On the back, written with messy child letters, "Mom Lucia, room 304. Arthur frowned. "Room 304, he repeated with a dry tone. "Cardiology is upstairs. There is no child there today." "Not a child." Leo tried to stand up, but his legs failed. It is a lady. Lucia Montero. She has surgery tomorrow. I saw..." The name hit something in Arthur's memory. Lucia Montero, 52 years old. Severe heart problem. Surgery set for 6 a.m. "How do you know her name?" The boy swallowed. The words came out broken by fever and being tired. "The record. It is wrong. She has allergy. Bad allergy. They will kill her." Silence fell over the room like a heavy curtain. Sarah let out a tired breath. "You are dreaming, honey. You have a big fever." "No!" The boy's shout rang with a terrible clarity. "Allergy to medicine. They will give her the wrong medicine before surgery. It is wrong on the papers." Arthur took a step forward. For the first time all night he was paying full attention. "How on earth do you know that?" The boy shook hard but held onto his words as if they were the only thing keeping him alive. I live on the street. Near here. 3 weeks ago she fell on the sidewalk. I helped her. She gave me a sandwich and water. And she showed me the papers because I asked why she cried. She said, 'My heart is failing, but they will fix me. And I have a bad allergy to medicine. I almost died once.' I saw the papers. I remember everything I see." Sarah let out a short laugh, not mean, just purely shocked. "You memorized medical papers at 7 years old." "I memorize everything," the boy said, tears mixing with fever sweat. "In school, before I was alone. The teacher said I was a photo boy, that I kept things in my head." Something cold and sharp went through Arthur's chest. It was not pity yet. It was medical alarm. He knew those cases. Perfect memory. Very rare. Incredibly exact. "Bring me the file for the patient in 304. Sarah doubted for a second, but Arthur's voice allowed no talk. She typed on the tablet and held out the screen. Arthur read the allergy box. No known allergies. The boy shook his head with desperation. "It is wrong! It is wrong! Check with the patient. Now." Sarah went up the stairs, almost running. 3 minutes later she came back pale as a ghost. "It is true." Her voice barely came out. "Bad allergy to medicine. Big shock when she was a child. She says she told them at the desk. But they got it wrong. They wrote none. If the team gives the normal medicine before surgery, she did not finish. She did not have to." The silence that followed was the kind that happens when everyone knows they almost had a tragedy. Arthur looked at the boy. Leo, he said his name was, who was now shaking hard, holding the photo as if it were part of his own body. "What is your name?" "Leo, sir." "Leo, you just saved a life." The coffee machine in the hall spit out a dark liquid that wanted to be coffee. Arthur drank it standing up, looking out the window at the lit city. It was 2 a.m. The rain had slowed to a steady mist that made gold circles around the streetlights. On the floor above, a full team changed the surgery plan for Lucia Montero. New medicine, new steps, everything safe for her allergy now written correctly, thanks to a barefoot boy no one wanted to look at. Leo had been cleaned, given medicine and fed. Now he slept in a bed, wrapped in warm blankets with a bag of fluid dripping slowly into his thin arm. Sarah watched him herself, unable to look away from that little one who had surprised her. Arthur went back to the room. Leo had his eyes open, big, dark, alert, despite being tired. "How do you feel?" "Better, sir. Thank you." Arthur pulled a chair and sat by the bed. For the first time in years, he did not know exactly what to say. "Leo, I need to understand something. When you saw that lady's papers, what exactly do you remember?" The boy closed his eyes. His voice became different, more exact, almost like a machine. "I remember the name of the problem. Severe aortic stenosis, weight 52 kilograms, blood pressure 145/90. Name of the medicine she cannot take, cefazolin, and there was a coffee stain on the corner of the paper. It looked like a small island." Arthur felt a chill. He took his tablet, opened Lucia's scanned file. He zoomed in on the original paper. There it was, a small brown stain in the bottom right corner, like an island. "Good God," he whispered. He put the tablet on the table carefully, as if it were a bomb. He looked at Leo with something he had not felt in decades, real wonder. "That is called photographic memory, Leo. It is a very rare gift. 1 in a million people have it." The boy looked down. His voice broke. "No one calls it a gift. They call it a lie. I have no mother. She died when I was small. They took me to a home, but I ran away. I just wanted someone to believe me. Something inside Arthur, that heart that had been frozen for decades among money books and business meetings, cracked." He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, New York slept under the rain, rich and poor at the same time, huge and cold. "What if I believed you?" he asked without turning around. "What if I gave you a real chance?" Leo did not answer. When Arthur turned, the boy had closed his eyes. 2 silent tears ran down his face. At 6:30 in the morning, Lucia Montero went into surgery with the plan fully changed. Arthur watched from the control room, though he was not a heart surgeon. He simply needed to see with his own eyes that the boy had been right. The operation lasted 4 hours. Every minute was perfect. The team worked with the precision of Swiss watchmakers. When the head surgeon closed the last cut, everyone in the room breathed at once. "Complete success," the doctor said, taking off his gloves. "If we had used the old plan, she would not have survived the start." Arthur felt a strange weight in his chest. It was not guilt yet. It was knowing. 3 hours later, Lucia woke up. The first thing she said, even before asking about herself, was, "Where is Leo?" The nurse blinked, confused. "The boy from the street. That boy saved my life once, giving me food when I fainted. And now he saved me again. Bring him here. Please." Arthur had them bring Leo. The boy came in clean with new hospital clothes, but still with that look of someone who expects everything to be taken away. When Lucia saw him, she started to cry. "Come here, little one." Leo came close slowly. Lucia held out her arms and hugged him hard, with the strength of someone who just got her life back and wants to hold it. The boy stayed stiff for a moment. Then, as if something inside him finally broke, he fell against her shoulder and cried. He cried like only children who have had to be adults too soon cry. The whole hospital seemed to breathe with them. 2 days later, Arthur called Leo to his office. The office took up the whole top floor, windows from floor to ceiling, fancy furniture, art on the walls. From there, you could see the whole city. Leo entered with small and careful steps, like an animal smelling a trap. "Sit down." The boy sat on the edge of the leather chair, back straight, hands on his knees. Arthur studied him in silence. He had spent 40 years building an empire judging people. He knew how to see talent drive weakness, but this was different. This was something the business books did not teach. "Leo, I am going to ask you a serious question, and I need you to answer with the truth." "Yes, sir." "Do you want to go back to the street?" The boy turned pale. "No, sir, but I cannot go back to the home there. I am not talking about the home. I am talking about a third choice." Arthur stood up and walked to the window. Your gift can save lives. Yesterday proved it. In this hospital we make mistakes. Human mistakes. We cannot help it. But a boy with a photo memory can find them before they kill someone. He turned to Leo. I want you to work with me. Checking files. Finding mistakes. With help from teachers and doctors. I will give you school, a house, food, everything. But in return you will use your gift to save lives. Leo looked at him as if Arthur had just spoken a foreign language. Why? He whispered. Why me? Arthur could have given 100 logical answers. Speed, less mistakes, new ideas. But what came out was the truth. Because I spent 50 years building hospitals, and I forgot why. And a barefoot boy reminded me in 5 minutes. A week later, Arthur called a special meeting. The boardroom was full. Medical bosses, department heads, lawyers, safety leads, 20 pairs of unsure eyes. In the middle of the table, dressed in new clothes but still with that scared animal look, was Leo. Gentlemen, Arthur began, this is Leo Ruiz. He saved a patient by finding a critical error in our system. Today I want to show you something. He showed on the screen 10 real medical files, already checked by the safety team. In each one, a mistake had been put on purpose. Wrong doses, bad mixes, things that do not match. Leo, look at these papers. The boy studied them in silence for 3 minutes. Then he started to point, one by one. This patient, the dose of medicine is double. This one, the medicine does not mix with his heart pill. Here it does not say he has diabetes, even though it is in the nurse notes from day 3. This one has an allergy written wrong. It says penicillin, but the letter looks like penicillina. Someone might get confused. And this last one, the blood type is different on 2 pages. AB positive on top, A positive on bottom. The silence in the room was thick as fog. Dr. Evans, the safety boss, a 60-year-old man with a grey mustache and a name for being impossible to impress, leaned over his tablet. He checked every note. His face went from doubt to surprise, and from surprise to total shock. It is correct. His voice shook a little. Everyone. Even the writing error that we almost missed ourselves. Dr. Sarah Miller, sitting at the end of the table, had wet eyes. She stood up slowly. I saw him enter the hospital that night. And I only saw a boy from the street. I did not see an amazing human being. I did not see... Her voice broke. I did not see what you are seeing now. She went to Leo and knelt to be at his level. Forgive me, truly. Not for doubting you, but for not seeing you when you needed it most. Leo looked at her with those eyes too old for his age. He swallowed and answered with a maturity that surprised everyone. People almost never see us for real, those of us who live on the street. It is not just you, it is everyone. Sarah held out her hand. Leo, after doubting for a second, took it. There was a whisper in the room. Then, something unexpected. Dr. Evans started to clap. Slow at first, then louder. One by one, the others joined. It was not the polite clap of business meetings. It was real, full of respect. Leo looked down, overwhelmed, not knowing what to do with so much attention. Arthur felt something strange and warm grow in his chest. Something he had not felt in decades. Pride, not for a money report or buying a company. Pride for doing the right thing. That same afternoon, Arthur did something he had never done in 30 years. He cancelled all his meetings. He called a hospital social worker, a lawyer for children, and went to the city home where Leo had been before running away. The building was grey brick, with bars on the windows and a concrete yard where some children played without joy. The director, a tired man with a loose tie, looked at the papers Arthur showed with a mix of surprise and relief. Leo Ruiz. Yes, I remember the boy. Smart, very smart, but trouble. He said he saw things others did not see. The other kids called him a liar. He ran away 6 months ago. He is not a liar, Arthur answered with a firmness that allowed no talk. He has photographic memory. It is an amazing gift. The director blinked. I did not know. I thought he made up stories for attention. How many like him have passed through here without anyone really seeing them? Arthur asked, and the question was not a joke. It was a silent punch. The director did not answer. 3 hours later, with the papers started and a fast court order thanks to Arthur's power, Leo moved to a special apartment inside the hospital area, a space made for families of long-stay patients now turned into a temporary home. When Leo entered and saw the room, small but clean, with a real bed, a desk, books on shelves, windows with curtains, he stayed frozen at the door. Is this for me?" "Yes," Arthur answered, leaning against the doorframe. Leo walked slow, touching things as if they could disappear. He ran his fingers over the soft blanket. He opened the empty closet that would soon have clothes. He sat in the desk chair and looked at the new color pencils, the unused notebooks. For how long? The question went through Arthur like a knife. "Leo, look at me." The boy looked up. "It is not temporary. You are not going back to the street. Never again. Do you hear me? Never again." Leo's eyes filled with tears that he refused to let fall. "Why are you doing this, Aunt?" he whispered. "What do you want from me?" Arthur knelt to be at his level. For the first time in years, he touched someone without planning the move. "I want you to be the boy you were supposed to be from the start. To study, to grow, to use your gift for something good, and to—" He paused, surprised by his own words. "To have a family, even if it is a strange family, of an old bitter doctor and a boy who is too smart." Leo looked at him for a long time. Then, with a fast move, he hugged him. Hard, desperate. Arthur, who had not hugged anyone since his mother died 15 years ago, stayed still for a second. Then slowly he hugged him back. And in that small room, with the smell of new paint and an unsure future, something old and broken in both started to heal. A week later, Lucia Montero was sent home. The surgery had been a total success. Her heart, once about to fail, now beat strong and steady. The doctors talked about a miracle recovery, but she knew the truth. The miracle had a name. Before leaving the hospital, she asked to see Leo. They met in the inner garden of the hospital, a small space with wooden benches and some trees fighting to grow in the concrete. The April sun fell warm over New York. Lucia wore her street clothes, old jeans, a blue sweater, a scarf she had made herself. At 52, she had a face marked by life, but her eyes shone with a motherly warmth. Leo sat by her on the bench, still shy. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Good. Dr. Sterling gave me a room, and food, and clothes, and they will let me go to school." "I am so happy." Lucia took his hand gently. "You know, when I saw you that first time weeks ago, fallen on the sidewalk, I thought you were an angel. You helped me without wanting anything back." Leo shook his head. "I am not an angel. I just saw you needed help. That is exactly what an angel does," Lucia smiled. "See what others do not see. I lost my son 10 years ago. He was your age when he died. A car accident. Since then, I live alone. No family." Her voice broke a little, but she fixed herself. "And then you appear. You save my life twice. Do you not think the universe is trying to tell us something?" Leo looked at her with those deep eyes. "Like what?" "Like sometimes family is not the one born with you. It is the one that finds you when you need it most." Lucia took a deep breath and went on. "I talked to Dr. Sterling. I told him that when I get out of here, I want to be a volunteer in the program they are making with you. I want to help. I want to be close. If you want, of course." Leo nodded slowly. A small smile, the first real smile Arthur had seen on him, appeared on his face. "I would like that very much, Miss Lucia." "Just Lucia," she corrected, squeezing his hand. "And if you ever need, I don't know, someone to talk to or someone to make you a sandwich or someone to just be there, I will be there." From his office window, Arthur watched the scene. Something inside him moved. He was building something bigger than a medical program. He was building a broken family that was putting itself back together piece by piece. 3 weeks later, Leo had his first official day as an assistant in the patient safety unit. The team had made a special plan. He would work 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, always with a boss. The rest of the time he would study with private teachers to catch up on the years he lost. The workroom was small and bright, with 3 computers, medical files, and a board full of plans. Dr. Sarah Miller had asked to be his main boss. "Good morning, Leo," she said with a real smile. "Good morning, Doctor. Today we will start slow. I want you to check these 5 files. Don't look for mistakes specifically. Just read and tell me if anything catches your eye, okay?" Leo nodded and took the first folder. His eyes ran over the pages with total focus. He did not move his lips. He did not make notes. He just read. After 15 minutes, he looked up. "This patient says he is allergic to seafood. But on the food sheet for day 4, they gave him fish soup. And the fish was made with seafood broth according to the kitchen menu." Sarah checked. Indeed, there was a dangerous mismatch between food and recorded allergies. "Excellent. Anything else?" "Yes. This other one has a blood pressure pill written twice, in different doses. One says 10 milligrams in the morning, the other says 20 milligrams at night. But they are the same pill." Someone doubled the order. Sarah felt a chill. That kind of mistake could cause a dangerous drop in blood pressure. "Leo, you just stopped 2 possible bad problems on your first day." The boy shrugged his shoulders with modesty. "I just read what is written." "No," Sarah corrected gently. "You see what is written, which is very different." At the end of the day, Leo had checked 15 files and found 7 mistakes, some small, others potentially deadly. Dr. Evans, who watched from the safety department, called Arthur that same afternoon. "In one day, that boy found more errors than our computer system in a week. It is amazing." Arthur smiled for the first time in a long time. "I know. But not all progress was a straight line. One night, 2 months after arriving at the hospital, Leo disappeared. Arthur arrived at the apartment at 8 in the evening. He had started having dinner with the boy regularly and found the room empty. The bed was made, the clothes were folded, everything in order. Too much in order. As if Leo had tried to erase any sign of being there. Panic, that unknown feeling for a man used to total control, hit Arthur in the chest. "Leo!" he shouted through the halls. He moved security. They checked cameras. The last image showed Leo leaving the hospital at 6 in the evening, walking east. Arthur knew that direction, the park where Leo had lived on the street for months. He took his car and drove like he had not since he was young, with a fast heart and sweaty hands on the wheel. He got to the park in 15 minutes. The May night was cool with the smell of fresh grass, and there, under a tree where the streetlight barely reached, was Leo, sitting on the ground, holding his knees, looking at nothing. Arthur came close slowly, like one approaches a hurt animal. "Leo." The boy did not look up. "I am sorry. I needed to come here." Arthur sat by him on the ground, not caring about his $3,000 suit. "Why?" Leo took a while to answer. When he did, his voice was barely a whisper. "I was afraid of forgetting." "Forgetting what?" "How it was, being cold, being hungry, having no one. Because when one is okay, when one has food and a bed and people to care, it is easy to forget those who are still out here. And I do not want to forget. I do not want to be like—" He stopped. "Like me?" Arthur finished gently. Leo looked at him surprised. "I did not mean—" "But you are right," Arthur sighed deeply. "I forgot. I spent years forgetting. I built hospitals and forgot why medicine exists, until a barefoot boy forced me to remember." There was a long silence, only the wind in the leaves and the far-off traffic. "Leo, listen to me well. There is nothing wrong with being okay, with having food, with having a safe place. That does not make you less kind. It does not turn you into someone who forgets. On the contrary, now you have the power to change things, for you and for others. How? By being exactly who you are, using your gift, remembering where you come from, and building something better for those who come after." Leo wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "Can I come here sometimes, just to remember?" "You can come whenever you want. but promise me you will always come back home." "Home?" "Yes," Arthur said, surprising himself. "Home. Because that is what it is now. Your home." Leo nodded slowly. Then he did something unexpected. He leaned his head on Arthur's shoulder, and Arthur, who had spent decades measuring success in numbers and buys, felt that this moment, dirty, uncomfortable, weak, was the most important win of his life. 6 months later, the pilot program with Leo had given such amazing results that Arthur called a press meeting. The hospital hall was full of reporters, cameras, and flashes. On the stage next to Arthur were Leo, now 8 years old, with right clothes, well-cut hair, but keeping GU deep look, Dr. Sarah Miller, Dr. Evans, and Lucia Montero, who had become a volunteer leader for the project. "Ladies and gentlemen," Arthur began, "7 months ago, a boy entered this hospital barefoot, hungry, and sick, and he taught us something we had forgotten, that real medicine is not just in technology, but in seeing every person who walks through our doors." He showed stats on the screen: 47% drop in medicine errors, early find of bad mixes, 0 deaths from record errors in the area where Leo worked. But this is not just about numbers. It is about dignity, about giving value to someone society had made invisible. Therefore, today, I announce the start of the Leo Ruiz Center for Patient Safety, a full program that will not only check files, but will train medical workers in the importance of detail and empathy. The flashes went off. The questions rained. A reporter raised a hand. "Doctor." "Sterling, is it not dangerous to put so much weight on a child?" Arthur looked at Leo, who stayed calm in his chair. "Leo is not alone. He works with a team of pros. He has constant help. He goes to school. He has a childhood. What he does is use his amazing gift in a controlled and right way. Is it weight? Yes. Is it dangerous? Not more dangerous than ignoring his talent and letting him die on the street." There was an uncomfortable silence. Then a young woman reporter asked Leo directly, "How does it feel to be famous?" Leo leaned toward the mic. He spoke with a clear voice, without doubting. "I do not feel famous. I feel useful. There is a difference. Before I was invisible. Now they see me. But I do not want them to see just me. I want them to see all the children still on the streets, all the people no one looks at, because I was lucky, but there are many who are not." The silence that followed was total. Then naturally someone started to clap. The clapping spread through the whole room. That night Leo's story was on all the news. "The boy who saved lives," some titles said. "From the street to the hospital. The amazing memory of Leo Ruiz," said others. But in the small apartment where they now lived together, because Arthur had taken full custody, Leo and Arthur ate homemade soup that Lucia had brought them, watching a cartoon on TV. "Are you okay with all this?" Arthur asked. "The press, the attention?" Leo shrugged. "It is strange, but it is okay, as long as I can keep helping. And school? How is it going?" A shadow crossed Leo's face. "Some kids, they say things. That I am strange, that I fake it, that I just want attention." Arthur felt a pinch of protective anger. "Do you want me to talk to—" "No," Leo cut in. "I can handle it. I did it before. Just that. Before I was alone. Now I know that at the end of the day, I have someone waiting for me." He looked at Arthur with a mix of thanks and something deeper. "Thank you. For everything." Arthur felt a knot in his throat. "You don't have to thank me for anything, son." It was the first time he used that word on purpose. "Son." And Leo smiled, a full, bright child smile, and went back to his soup. 2 years later, Leo was 10 years old. He had grown. He was no longer that thin boy. But he kept that special seriousness of someone who has seen too much too soon. He studied in a special school for gifted children, worked 3 hours a day at the hospital, and had helped train a whole team of medical checkers. The Leo Ruiz Center was now a world name. Hospitals from other countries sent people to learn the plan. Science papers had been written about his case in top medical magazines, but nothing had ready him for what happened on a Tuesday in November. A patient arrived by ambulance, Carlos Mendoza, 58 years old, heart attack. He needed emergency surgery. The plan was clear, set, tested thousands of times. Leo was checking the file as a routine when something made him stop. He called Sarah immediately. "Doctor, there is something wrong here." "What is it?" "The patient. On the desk paper it says he takes no normal medicine, but on the signature for the permission the writing shakes in a specific way, and there is a stain, like sweat, on the paper." Sarah frowned. "And what does that mean?" "It means he was nervous, very nervous, more than normal for someone going to surgery. As if he were hiding something." "Leo, those are just guesses. Please, just ask him one more time. Directly. About medicine." There was something in Leo's power that made it impossible to ignore him. Sarah went personally to the prep room. "Mr. Mendoza, I need you to confirm, do you take any medicine normally?" The man, pale and hooked to monitors, shook his head weakly. Sarah pushed with a softer voice. "Mr. Mendoza, this is vital. There will be no legal trouble, we are not going to judge you. But I need to know, do you use any substance, medicine, or street drugs?" The man closed his eyes. A tear ran down his face. "Cocaine," he whispered. "2 days ago. At a party. My wife does not know. Please." Sarah felt the floor move under her feet. If they had operated without knowing that, the mix with the surgery drugs could have been fatal. The surgery was delayed 24 hours. The plan was fixed. Carlos Mendoza survived, and when he woke up, he asked to see Leo. "They say it was you who suspected." Leo nodded in silence. "Thank you." The man's voice broke. "And sorry. Sorry for lying. For putting at risk." "You do not need to say sorry to me," Leo answered with a surprising maturity. "Just try to take better care of yourself. For you, for your family." Carlos Mendoza cried like a child. That night, Arthur found Leo in the hospital garden, looking at the stars. "How did you know?" "I did not know. I suspected. The shaking writing, the sweat stain. They are signs of extreme fear. And people only have that kind of fear when they hide something important." Arthur sat by him. "You just saved another life." "But I almost didn't. They almost didn't listen. Because I am still a child. An amazing child. But a child after all. And sometimes," Leo sighed, "sometimes I get tired of having to prove all the time that I am real, that my gift is real, that I deserve to be heard." Arthur put a hand on his shoulder. "I hear you. Always. I know. But when you are not here, I will be." Arthur cut in firmly. "I will always be. That is what a family does. Be there." Leo leaned his head on his shoulder, as he had done that night in the park. "Can I call you Dad?" Arthur felt something inside him break and fix at the same time. "I would love that," he answered with a rough voice. 3 years later, Leo was 13 years old, tall for his age, thin, with eyes that stayed too old, but now also knew how to smile. The Leo Ruiz Center had grown to 8 hospitals in Spain. The rates of medical errors had dropped hard in all of them. Leo split his time between studies. He was 3 years ahead, work at the hospital and an almost normal life. Friends, sports, movies. Lucia had become a constant presence. She had dinner with them twice a week, went with Leo to school events when Arthur could not, taught him to cook. It was the family none of them had and everyone needed. In May, the European Society for Patient Safety said they would give Leo the Special Award for Human Merit, the youngest winner in the prize's history. The ceremony was in Barcelona, in a hall full of medical stars from the whole continent. Leo, dressed in a formal suit Lucia helped him pick, went on stage before 1,500 people. The head of the society read the praise. "Leo Ruiz reminds us that medicine is not just science, it is humanity. It is seeing those others do not see, it is turning a gift into service." From the streets of New York to this stage, his trip is proof that talent exists in the most unexpected places, just waiting for someone to decide to look at it. They gave him a glass plaque that reflected the hall lights like a prism. Leo went to the mic. He took a deep breath, and he spoke without notes, from the heart. When I was 7 years old, I was invisible. People looked at me and saw a problem, a dirty boy that needed to be moved away. I never thought that one day I would be here, getting a prize like this. He paused. His voice became firmer. But this prize is not mine. It belongs to everyone who is invisible. The children on the streets, the patients who are just numbers, the people the system ignores. I was lucky. Someone decided to see me. Dr. Arthur Sterling could have left me in that hall. He could have kept going, but he stopped. He looked, he listened. And that changed everything. His eyes found Arthur in the crowd. So this prize is also his, and Dr. Sarah Miller's, who learned to see past first looks, and Lucia Montero's, who taught me that family is what we choose to build, and everyone's who works every day, so that the invisible are seen. There was total silence. Then, the whole room stood up. The clapping lasted 5 full minutes. Arthur, sitting in the crowd, had wet eyes. Lucia, by him, cried openly with a big smile. When Leo came off the stage, he walked straight to them. He hugged Lucia first, then Arthur. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me a life." "Thank you," Arthur answered, "for giving me back mine." 5 years later, Leo was 18 years old. He had been accepted into medical school with a full scholarship. His photo memory allowed him to take in info at amazing speed, but he had also learned to use the heart as well as the brain. The Leo Ruiz Center now worked in 23 hospitals in 6 countries. It had saved many lives. It had made plans used around the world. But most important, it had changed medical culture, showing that every detail matters, every person matters. Leo's change had been big. He was no longer that scared, thin boy. He was 5'9", had dark hair always a bit messy, and kept that deep look that seemed to see past looks. He dressed simply, jeans, cotton shirts, comfy shoes, saying no to any show of wealth. On his first day of college, many classmates knew him right away. "Are you Leo Ruiz? The one from the center?" asked a girl with curly hair. Leo nodded with modesty. "I am just one more student." "You are not just anything," answered a boy named Mark. "I read your story. It is amazing." Leo smiled uncomfortably. Despite the years, he still did not fully get used to the attention. "The story is not mine. It belongs to everyone who was invisible and found someone who saw them." That answer, humble and deep, won the respect of his classmates right away. But Leo never forgot where he came from. One September afternoon after his classes, he went back to the park where Arthur had found him that rainy night 11 years ago. But this time, he was not alone. With him was a group of volunteers from the center, doctors, nurses, social workers, med students, carrying blankets, hot food, first aid kits, clean clothes. The park was still the same. Old trees, worn benches, shadows where the forgotten ones of the city hid. Leo felt a knot in his stomach stepping on that ground again. "Are you okay?" asked Dr. Sarah Miller, who was now head of medicine but still went on these trips. "Yes, just memories." They went to the first group, 3 men and a woman sharing a water bottle under a tree. "Good afternoon," Leo said with a soft voice. "We are from St. Jude Hospital. We bring hot food, basic medical care, blankets. Do you need anything?" The oldest man looked at him with doubt. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing," Leo answered simply. "Just to help." "Why?" Leo knelt to be at the level of the sitting man. "Because I was where you are. I slept in this same park, and someone saw me when no one else did. Now it is my turn to see." The doubt in the man's eyes softened a bit. "Did you really stay here?" "Really? I was 7 years old. I slept under that tree over there," he pointed. "The biggest one, because it had more leaves and protected better from the rain." The man studied his face, looking for signs of a lie. He found none. "Okay, I accept the food. They spent 4 hours in the park. They helped 22 people. Some agreed to go to shelters. Others just wanted food or basic care. One a young man of only 20, agreed for Leo to help him get treatment for his drug problem. "Why do you trust me?" asked the young man while Leo took his info. "Because I know that people are not their worst moments. They are all the chances they carry inside. And you deserve a chance." When they went back to the hospital, it was already dark. Arthur, now 63 years old, with more grey hair but brighter eyes, waited at the entrance. "How was it?" "Hard," Leo admitted, letting himself fall on a bench. "But needed. I want to do this every week, a permanent mobile team, medical care in the streets." "You want to grow the center again?" "I want to grow kindness," Leo corrected. "The center is just a tool, but kindness, that has to reach where buildings cannot." Arthur looked at him with clear pride. "When did you become wiser than me?" "The day you stopped seeing me as a project and started seeing me as your son." There was a comfy silence between them. Arthur sat by Leo. "You know, these 11 years with you have been the best of my life, and I had a life of success, money, prizes. But nothing matches this, being your father." Leo felt his throat tighten. "And I would not be here without you. Literally. I would have died in that hall or on some cold street. You gave me life twice." Arthur put an arm around his shoulders. "We saved each other, son. That is what real love does." That night, the three of them had dinner in the apartment they now shared. Arthur, Leo, and Lucia, who basically lived with them. Lucia had made a local stew, her grandmother's recipe, and the house smelled like home. "Leo, a letter came from the university," Lucia said, giving him an elegant envelope. Leo opened it. It was an invite to give a talk to first-year students about humanizing medicine. "Are you going to say yes?" Arthur asked. "Yes, but I do not want to talk only about me. I want to bring other people who were invisible and now use their experience to help." Lucia smiled with tenderness. "Always thinking about others." "I learned from the best," Leo answered, looking at both. After dinner, Leo went out to the small balcony of the apartment. New York shone under the stars. Lucia joined him, wrapped in a handmade shawl. "What are you thinking about?" "About everything that changed. Sometimes I find it hard to believe this is real, that I have a family, a home, a goal." "It is real," Lucia said, taking his hand. "And you deserve it. You always deserved it." "You also lost a lot," Leo said softly. "Your son." Lucia's voice broke a little, but she did not look away. "Losing Daniel was the hardest thing in my life. For years, I just existed. I did not live, until a barefoot boy saved my life, and then gave me a reason to keep going. Do you think that Daniel would have been proud of what you do now?" Lucia smiled through tears. "I think he is proud. And I think you do not replace my son. You are something different. You are the gift life gave me when I thought there was no more light." They hugged in silence, two broken souls who had healed each other. The following months were busy. Leo balanced his college studies, his work at the center, and the new mobile team he had named Project Visibility. 3 times a week, a team went to the streets, parks, and subway stations to offer medical care, food, and dignity to those living in the shadows. On one of those trips, Leo met Elena, a woman of 40 who had lost her job, her house, and her family in one terrible year. "I do not want charity," she said with broken pride. "It is not charity," Leo answered. "It is humanity. We all need help at some point. I needed it, and now I can give it." Elena accepted food and a blanket, but most important, she accepted hope. Leo connected her with job programs. 6 months later, Elena had a job, an apartment, and had started to smile again. "You came to one of my talks at the college," Leo said when he saw her. "I wanted to say thank you, in person, with dignity." "You always had dignity," Leo answered. "You just needed someone to see it." Stories like Elena's were many. Project Visibility helped more than 100 people every week. Some just needed a meal. Others needed medical care. Many just needed someone to look them in the eyes and treat them like human beings. One day, while Leo checked reports at his small desk in the center, Sarah entered with a serious face. "Leo, there is something I want to tell you. I've been thinking about it for years." "What is it?" "That night, when I saw you enter the hospital barefoot and sick, I only saw a problem, a social case. I did not see an amazing human being, and that is something I've had to live with." "Sarah, we already talked about this." "Let me finish," she cut in softly. "You changed me. You changed how I do medicine. Now, when I see a patient, I don't see just signs. I see stories. I see humanity. And I owe that to a 7-year-old boy who taught me to see for real." Leo stood up and hugged her. "Thank you for learning to see. That is all I needed." 10 years later, Leo was 28 years old. He was a specialist doctor and the assistant director of the center that had his name. The invisible boy from the streets of New York was now a world name in patient safety and humanizing medicine. But most important, he was still the same person. Humble, caring, unable to pass by suffering without stopping. Arthur, at 73, had formally retired from active work at the Sterling Group, but he went to the hospital every day, not because he had to, but because his real family was there. Grey hair had totally taken his head. Wrinkles marked his face like a map of all the smiles Leo had given him. His health was weaker, but his spirit stayed strong. Lucia, now 62, led a program to be with patients who had no family. She had found her goal in caring for others, like Leo had cared for her. Her hands, which once shook with fear before a surgery, now held others' hands with loving strength. It was a March afternoon, exactly 20 years after that rainy night that had changed everything, when Leo got an urgent call. "Dr. Ruiz, you need to come to emergency right away. There is a situation very special." Leo left the report he was writing and went down. In the triage room, in exactly the same spot where he had been 2 decades ago, was a girl of about 8 years old. She was soaked by the rain that had just started, barefoot, shaking hard, and she held against her chest a wrinkled photo. Leo's heart stopped. Time folded on itself. For a moment, it was like looking in a mirror of the past. Dr. Sofia Ramos, a bright young doctor who had studied specifically to work at the Leo Ruiz Center, examined the girl with professional care. Severe hunger, early cold shock, moderate thirst, another social case. "We will leave her in observation until the social worker can—" "Wait!" Leo's voice came out more tense than he meant. He came close to the girl with steady steps, controlling the shaking in his hands. He knelt to be at her level, exactly as Arthur had done with him so many years ago. "Hi, my name is Leo. What is your name?" The girl looked at him with huge eyes, dark like deep wells, full of a crushing mix of fear, intent, and desperate hope. "Marina." Her voice was barely a thread. "Marina, what brings you here? Are you hurt?" The girl shook her head. With shaking hands, she held out the photo. It was the image of a young man, not more than 25, smiling at the camera with a building worker's uniform stained with paint and dust. "My brother, Javier, is upstairs. Room 412. They are going to operate on him early tomorrow. But the papers—" Her voice broke. The papers are wrong." Leo felt the floor move under his feet. "What papers are wrong, Marina?" The girl swallowed. Tears started to run down her dirty cheeks. "The one for allergies. My brother has a bad allergy to a medicine, to morphine. He almost died once when he was a boy, but in the hospital papers it says he has no allergies. I saw it. Her voice dropped to a scared whisper. "I remember everything I see." The silence that fell over the room was so thick it felt solid. Leo felt hot tears in his own eyes. It was as if the universe was showing him exactly why he had survived, why he had been saved. For this moment, for this girl. "You remember everything you see, Marina?" She nodded, tears falling faster now. "People say I am a liar, that I make things up for attention. In school, before I had no house, the other kids made fun of me. The teachers did not believe me. But I do not lie. I just see and remember. I cannot help it." Her voice rose with desperation. "And my brother. He is the only thing I have left in the world. Our parents died 2 years ago. Javier works all day to give me food. We live in a squat because we have no money for rent. And if they give him the wrong medicine, if he dies, I will be completely alone." She broke down crying. Leo held out his arms slowly, giving her time to say no if she wanted. "Marina, can I hug you?" She nodded between sobs. When Leo wrapped her in his arms, he felt her shake, from cold, from fear, from total tiredness. It was exactly how he had shaken 20 years ago in this same room. "Listen to me very well," he whispered against her wet hair that smelled like rain and being alone. "I believe you. Do you hear me, Marina? I believe you totally. You are not a liar. You have a gift, an amazing gift. And we are going to check what you say. And we are going to save your brother. And we are going to take care of you and him. I promise you with my life." Marina held on to him with a desperate strength that reminded him exactly how he had felt himself. "Do you really believe me? Really?" "Really. Because I have the same gift you have. And I know exactly what it is to not be believed." Marina raised her head suddenly, looking at him with very wide eyes. You too?" "Yes. And when I was your age, I was also exactly where you are now. In this same room. Barefoot, soaked, scared, trying to save someone I loved. And someone believed me. Someone saw me. And that changed my life." Leo's tears fell freely now. "Now, it is my turn to see you." He looked up at Dr. Ramos, who was totally pale, with a hand over her mouth. "Sophia, bring the full file for the patient in room 412, right now." 2 minutes later, they had the digital file on a tablet. Javier Cortez, 24 years old, bad appendix problem, emergency surgery set for 7 a.m. the next day. In the allergy box, no known allergies. Leo felt the déjà vu so powerful it almost knocked him down. History repeating. The circle closing. "I am going up myself," he said with a firm voice. He took Marina by the hand. "Come with me. I want you to see that we take you seriously." They went up together to room 412. Javier Cortez was awake, hooked to an IV, with a face marked by pain and worry. He was young, thin, with hard hands of someone who works with them. When he saw Marina enter with a doctor, he tried to sit up fast. "Marina, my God, you are okay. I thought, when they brought me in the ambulance and you weren't there, I thought, I am okay, Javi. This doctor helped me." Leo came close to the bed. "Mr. Cortez, I am Dr. Leo Ruiz. I need to confirm something urgent. Do you have any allergy to medicine?" Javier turned pale until he was almost gray. "Yes, to morphine. I had a terrible reaction when I was 12. I almost died. It swelled my throat. I could not breathe. I told the nurse when they took me in, but she was very busy. There were many patients, and she just wrote something fast and kept going." His voice rose with panic. "My God, is it wrong in the record?" Leo nodded gravely. "Your sister saw the papers, and she told us." Javier looked at Marina with shocked eyes. You remembered." "I always remember, Javi," Marina said with a small voice. "You are the only thing I have. I could not let anything happen to you." Javier started to cry. A young man, worn out by weights that were too heavy, letting out all the built-up fear. "We are going to fix the record right now," Leo promised. "The surgery will go on, but with the right plan. Marina just saved your life." "Marina has always been special," Javier said between tears. "But no one believes her. People think she makes things up. In school they called her the crazy girl. That's why I took her out, and I could not stand seeing her suffer like that." Leo sat on the edge of the bed. "She is not crazy. She has photographic memory, like me. It is an amazing gift. And we are going to make sure you two get all the help you need." An hour later, in the office that had been Arthur's and was now Leo's, 4 generations met, joined by fate. Arthur, leaning on his carved wood cane, with eyes bright with emotion at seeing the story repeat. Leo, holding Marina on his lap, while the girl ate her third sandwich with a mix of physical and emotional hunger. Lucia, who had arrived as soon as she heard, wrapping the little one in one of her handmade blankets, brushing her hair with infinite tenderness. And Dr. Sofia Ramos, who could not stop looking at Marina with a mix of wonder and new understanding. "It is photographic memory," Leo explained softly. "Like mine. She keeps visual info with photo exactness." "What is going to happen to her?" asked Sophia, her voice shaky. "Her brother. He loves her clearly, but they live in terrible conditions. He works 12-hour shifts. He cannot care for her right. She is going to stay with me," Leo cut in with total firmness. "With me, with Arthur, and with Lucia. We are going to start the legal process. We are going to make sure Javier gets money help, that he finds a steady job with good hours. No one is going to separate them." His voice got hard. "But they need help, and we are going to give it to them." Arthur smiled, with tears running down his wrinkled cheeks. The circle closes. Or better, it grows. Marina looked at Leo with those eyes too old for her age. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Leo moved a wet hair from her forehead with infinite tenderness. "Because 20 years ago, someone helped me when I was exactly where you are. Because I know what it is to have a gift that no one believes. Because I know what it is to be invisible to the world. And because," his voice softened to almost a whisper, "because no one, absolutely no one, should be alone when they have so much to give to the world. Do you really have the same gift I have?" "The same. And for years people called me a liar. Until someone decided to believe me." Marina studied him with those sharp eyes. "And now are you happy?" Leo looked around the room. At Arthur, his father in everything but blood. At Lucia, the grandmother fate had given him. At Sophia and the others who were his wide family. "Now I am more than happy. I am whole. I have a family. I have a goal. I use my gift to save lives. And you? You can have all that too." "Are you going to teach me?" Marina asked shyly. "To use my memory to help people?" "I am going to teach you something better," Leo answered with a smile. "I am going to teach you that your gift does not define you. What defines you is your heart, that you can be amazing and normal at the same time, that you can save lives and also play, laugh, have friends, that you can be special without stopping being a child." Lucia came close and took Marina's small hand. "And I am going to teach you to cook, and to knit, and all those things a grandmother teaches her granddaughter. Are you my grandmother?" Marina seemed confused and hopeful at the same time. "If you want, I can be. Families are not always by blood. Sometimes they are by choice, by love, by meetings that fate prepares." Marina looked around her, at these strange people who looked at her not with pity or doubt, but with pure love and total acceptance. Is this what a family is?" Arthur came close slowly, leaning on his cane. He knelt with difficulty to be at Marina's level. "Yes, little one. A strange family, built with broken pieces, but a real family, where love does not depend on blood, but on choice, where we were all invisible once, and where we all learned to see." 3 weeks later, Marina was moved into the same apartment where Leo had lived 2 decades ago. The room had been painted light blue, her favorite color, with glowing stars on the ceiling. She had a soft bed with warm blankets, a desk full of books, new clothes that Lucia had bought with love. Javier, recovered well from his surgery, visited every day. The center had made a special fund for his case. They had gotten him a job as a building boss with 8-hour days, a small but decent apartment, and talk help for both siblings. "I don't know how to thank you," Javier said every time he saw Leo. "Thank us by being the best brother possible, and letting Marina have the childhood she deserves." Marina now went to a special school for gifted children, the same one where Leo had studied. In the afternoon, she spent 2 hours at the hospital, not really working, but watching, learning, slowly understanding the scope of her gift. But she also played. She laughed. She made friends. She was for the first time in her life simply a child. One afternoon, while Leo and Marina checked a picture anatomy book together, she looked up. "Leo, can I ask you something?" "Always." "When you were on the street, were you afraid?" Leo put down the book and looked at her directly. "All the time. Afraid of being hungry, afraid of being cold, afraid of the silence of the night, afraid that no one would ever believe me. But the worst fear was disappearing. Not dying, but just stopping being there for the world, becoming totally invisible." Marina nodded slowly, understanding. "I also had that fear, as if I shouted and no one heard me. And now," she smiled, a small, shy, but totally real smile. "Now I am afraid of normal things, like failing a test, or that the cafeteria food is bad, or that my best friend gets mad at me." Leo laughed with tenderness. "Those are the best fears in the world, the fears of a normal life. Can I call you Big Brother?" Leo felt a knot in his throat. "I would love that. And can I call Mr. Arthur Grandpa? And Miss Lucia Grandma? I think nothing would make them happier." That night, when Arthur got home, Marina ran to him. "Grandpa." The old doctor stopped still. Then, with tears in his eyes, he let his cane fall and opened his arms. Marina jumped to him, and Arthur held her as if she were the most prized treasure in the world. "Grandma, come," Marina called. Lucia came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. When she saw the scene, Arthur hugging Marina, Leo looking at them with wet eyes, she joined the hug. And there, in that modest apartment that smelled like home food and love, 4 people that fate had joined officially became a family. 2 years later, the Leo Ruiz Center celebrated its 22nd anniversary. It had grown to 42 hospitals in 11 countries. It had trained more than 5,000 medical pros. It had made plans that saved lives every day all over the world. But most important, it had changed ideas. Medicine no longer saw just sickness. It saw people, stories, humanity. The ceremony was in the main hall of St. Jude Hospital. It was totally full. Doctors, nurses, patients whose lives had been saved, thankful families, medical students, reporters. On the stage were all those who had been part of this amazing trip. Leo, now 30 years old, full director of the center, respected doctor, but above all, a complete human being. Marina, 10 years old, top student, learner of the program, happy girl with normal dreams and amazing gifts. Arthur, 75 years old with weak health but strong spirit, leaning on his cane but standing tall with pride. Lucia, 64 years old, full of life and light, with that special glow of someone who found a goal after pain. Dr. Sarah Miller, now head of medicine, changed by a boy who taught her to see. Dr. Evans, retired but there, who never forgot the day a boy proved that wisdom has no age. Javier Cortez, Marina's brother, now a building boss and active volunteer for Project Visibility. And dozens more, people whose lives had been touched, saved, changed by a barefoot boy who refused to stay invisible. Leo went to the mic. The silence that fell over the hall was of total respect. 22 years ago, he began, his voice clear and firm, a boy entered this hospital in the March rain. He was alone, scared, sick, invisible. That boy was me. And if that night someone had told me I would be here today, I would not have believed it. Because when you are invisible, you do not believe in miracles. You only believe in surviving one more day. He paused, letting the words sink in. But then something amazing happened. A man who had spent decades building empires without really looking at people stopped. He looked. He saw. Dr. Arthur Sterling could have kept walking. It would have been easier, more comfy, less work. But he chose to stop. And that single choice, that simple pick to see a boy when no one else did, changed the world, my world, and eventually the world of thousands of people. His voice filled with feeling. This center is not a building. It is not a program. It is not a set of plans. It is a promise. The promise that no one will be invisible, that every life matters, that medicine is much more than science and tech. It is kindness dressed as work. It is dignity turned into action. It is love disguised as a plan. He looked straight at Arthur, who had tears running freely down his wrinkled face. "Dad, you gave me a life when I could have been left to die. But more important, you taught me that saving lives is not just fixing bodies. It is seeing souls. It is knowing humanity where others see stats. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible." He turned to Lucia. "Lucia, Grandma, thank you for teaching me that family is not born, it is built, that love does not depend on blood, but on choice, that we can heal together the wounds life gives us." Finally, he looked at Marina, who watched him with love. "And to you, little Marina, thank you for reminding me where I come from, for showing me that real legacy is not measured in what we build, but in who we help build themselves." He stepped down from the mic and walked to Arthur. The old man, with effort, stood up. Father and son hugged while the whole hall broke into clapping. "I am so proud of you," he whispered with a broken voice. "So proud. I am who I am because you decided to see me," Leo answered. "Everything good in my life started when you decided to stop that night." After the ceremony, when the guests left and the lights dimmed, Leo and Arthur walked alone through the hospital halls. The walls were covered with photos, 20 years of history, of lives saved, of invisible people who became visible. They stopped in front of the emergency entrance, exactly where everything had started. The rain fell softly over New York, like that March night. "Do you know what is most amazing?" Arthur said, looking toward the lit street. "I thought I had built an empire, hospitals, investments, prizes, magazine covers. But all that was pride, dust. It meant nothing." "And this?" Leo asked softly. Arthur looked at him with eyes full of deep love. "This is everything. Having a son, having a family. Having learned that real success is not measured in money or power. It is measured in the lives you touch, in the love you build, in the invisible ones you make visible, in the chances you give, in the kindness you plant." "Then we both won," Leo smiled. "I won a family, you won a heart, and together we changed lives." They stayed there, father and son, watching the rain fall on the city. 20 years before, that same rain had brought a barefoot and dying boy to these doors. Today, that rain blessed a legacy of kindness that spread through the whole world. Marina joined them, taking Leo's hand. "What are you thinking about?" "That the best stories do not start with heroes," Leo answered. "They start with someone who decides to stop, to look, to see what everyone ignores." "And they end by saving the world," Marina added. "No," Arthur corrected her gently. "They end by saving one person, and then another, and another, until, without knowing it, you have changed the whole world." The three looked toward the entrance, where the rain kept falling, and every drop seemed to carry the promise that there would always be someone willing to stop, someone willing to see, someone willing to believe. Because in the end, the most powerful medicine does not come in bottles or in plans. It comes in the form of a simple choice: to see the humanity in every person who crosses your path, especially in those the world has made invisible,